The Rolls-Royce Phantom died in the middle of Woodward Avenue at precisely 5:47 p.m. on a Wednesday evening. Rush hour traffic. Detroit's veins clogged with steel and frustration. Horns blared, drivers shouted. The luxury vehicle sat there like a beached whale, black and gleaming and utterly useless. Victor Blackwood stepped out of the driver's seat, 58 years old. O of Blackwood Motors, a man accustomed to things working when he wanted them to work. His suit probably cost more than most people made in 3 months. His watch certainly did. He pressed his phone to his ear with the kind of fury that comes from never being told no. "I don't care what you're doing," he snapped into the device. "Send a flatbed truck. Now, I'm not standing on a street corner like some..." He noticed movement in his peripheral vision, turned, saw her. A girl, 12 years old maybe, small for her age. Wearing a mechanic's jacket 3 sizes too big, the sleeves rolled up to reveal arms that looked like they belonged to someone who knew what work meant. Her hands were permanently stained with grease, the kind of stains that no amount of scrubbing could remove. She was staring at his car. "What are you looking at, kid?" The girl took a step closer. Her voice was quiet but carried a certainty that made Victor pause. "Your car. It's not starting." Victor let out a short, harsh laugh. The kind of laugh that had ended careers and crushed dreams in boardrooms across 3 continents. "Brilliant observation. Yes, my car isn't starting. That's why I'm calling a tow truck instead of driving it. Now, unless you have a spare Rolls-Royce engine in your pocket, I suggest you move along." The girl didn't move along. She stepped closer instead, ignoring his dismissive tone like it was wind, like it was nothing. She could see exhaust vapor, hear the starter clicking uselessly. Her eyes tracked over the hood with the focus of a surgeon. "Can I look?" Victor stared at her like she'd asked to perform brain surgery. "This is a custom Phantom. It's worth more than your entire neighborhood. I'm not letting some street kid poke around under the hood." Something flickered in the girl's eyes. Not anger. Worse. Disappointment. Like she'd expected better and been proven wrong again. "I'm not some street kid," she said. Her voice was quiet but firm, unbreakable. "I'm a mechanic. Well, I'm learning, but I know engines." Victor looked at her, really looked. And in that moment, he decided she wasn't worth his time. He pulled out his wallet, extracted a $20 bill, held it out like she was a stray dog. "Here, take this. Buy yourself dinner and leave me alone." The girl didn't take the money. Instead, she walked to the front of the Rolls-Royce and knelt down, looking underneath, examining the undercarriage with eyes that knew what they were seeing. "Hey!" Victor stalked toward her. "I told you to." "Your fuel pump relay is fine," the girl called out, still examining beneath the car. "So it's not a fuel delivery problem. And I can hear the starter engaging, so it's not the battery or alternator." Victor stopped. How did she know that? The girl stood up, wiped her hands on her jacket. The gesture was automatic. Practiced. She'd done it 10,000 times before. "Can you pop the hood?" "Absolutely not." "Then you'll be stuck here until the tow truck arrives, which in this traffic will probably take an hour, maybe more." She gestured to the growing line of cars behind them, drivers getting angrier by the second. "And all these people, they're all going to remember the guy in the expensive car who was too proud to accept help from a kid." Victor's jaw clenched. He looked at his phone, at the traffic, at the girl, at the crowd of people now watching this interaction with interest. Several had their phones out, recording. "Fine, you have 2 minutes. Then I'm calling the police to have you removed for vandalism or trespassing or whatever charge applies to touching other people's property." He reached into the car, pulled the hood release. The girl lifted the hood. It was heavy, built like a tank, but she managed it, looked at the engine bay. The Phantom's V12 was beautiful, pristine, clearly maintained by someone who knew what they were doing. But the girl wasn't looking at the obvious parts. Her eyes scanned deeper, traced connections that most people would never notice. And then she froze. "This isn't a standard Phantom," she said, more to herself than to Victor. "This engine's been modified. The intake manifold, the ignition timing system." She paused, leaning closer, her breath caught. She'd seen this design before. 2 years ago. Kitchen table, Late at night, her father sitting across from her with his notebook open, sketching, explaining, teaching her how machines worked, how this particular system would capture energy from breaking, store it, use it to improve efficiency without sacrificing power. 40% better than anything on the market. The memory hit her like a physical thing. Sharp, painful, perfect. The Thomson hybrid system, she whispered. Victor went very still, his entire body tensed like someone had run electricity through him. What did you say? The girl's hands were shaking now, but she kept examining the engine, kept working, because that's what her father had taught her. When something's broken, you fix it. Even when your hands are shaking, even when your heart is breaking, you fix it. This is a hybrid system retrofit, custom ignition sequencing with a capacitor bank for regenerative. She couldn't remember the exact term her father had used, but she knew the concept, knew it in her bones. It's supposed to improve efficiency by almost 40%, but the ignition module, she found it, tucked behind the engine block. It's mounted wrong, the heat from the exhaust is cooking it. That's why you're getting intermittent failures. How do you know about Thomson hybrid? Victor's voice had changed, no longer condescending. Now it was sharp, almost dangerous, like he was interrogating a witness who knew too much. The girl didn't answer. She was looking at the ignition module, at the way it was positioned, at the custom bracket that was clearly an afterthought rather than part of the original design. Sloppy work, not her father's standards. I need to relocate this, move it 6 inches forward, add a heat shield. The car will start fine then. You're not touching anything else. But Victor didn't sound as certain now. There was something in his voice, fear maybe, recognition. Then you'll be stuck here. The girl met his eyes, direct, unflinching. 12 years old and is staring down a billionaire like it was nothing. Your call. Victor stared at her for a long moment. The crowd was growing, more phones out, more people watching. He was already late for a board meeting. The tow truck would take at least an hour. And this kid, this impossible kid, seemed to actually know what she was talking about. You break anything, I'm suing your parents for everything they have. My mom works 2 jobs just to pay rent. We don't have anything for you to take, except maybe my dad's tools, but those aren't for sale. The girl didn't wait for his response. She pulled out a small toolkit from her jacket pocket. Worn leather, tools that had seen decades of use, and she got to work. The modification took 15 minutes. She had to remove the ignition module, fabricate a temporary heat shield from a piece of aluminum flashing she found in a nearby dumpster, relocate the mounting bracket using zip ties from her toolkit. It wasn't pretty, but it would work. The crowd had stopped honking. They were watching now. This 12-year-old girl, elbow deep in a Rolls-Royce engine, moving with the kind of confidence that came from understanding exactly what she was doing. Moving like someone who'd been doing this her whole life. Try it now. The girl stepped back, wiped her hands on her jacket again. Victor got into the car, turned the key. The Phantom roared to life. Smooth, perfect, like it had never been broken. The crowd erupted, cheering, applauding. Someone whistled. A woman shouted something that might have been, "That's my girl," but got lost in the noise. The girl closed the hood carefully. Professional. Then turned to Victor with that same direct gaze. The heat shield is temporary. You'll need a proper one installed. And the mounting bracket should be stainless steel, not zip ties. But it'll get you where you need to go. Victor stepped out of the car, looking at the girl like he was seeing her for the first time. Really seeing her arm. How did you know about the Thomson hybrid system? My dad worked on something like it. He was an engineer, automotive design. The girl stopped. Couldn't finish. Couldn't say the word died because saying it made it real all over again. Victor's expression shifted, something that might have been recognition, or shock, or fear. Your father's name. The girl said it clearly, proudly, like it was the most important name in the world. Michael Thomson. He was the best engineer you've ever seen. The blood drained from Victor's face. Actually drained. Like someone had pulled a plug. He went pale in a way that made the girl take a step back. Michael Thompson. Victor repeated the name slowly, testing it, tasting it, like it was something he'd tried very hard to forget. Yeah, the girl tilted her head. Did you know him? Victor didn't answer. Instead, he pulled out his wallet again, this time extracting several $100 bills, thrust them toward her. Thank you for the repair. The girl looked at the money but didn't take it. I didn't do it for money. I did it because the car needed fixing and I knew how. She turned to walk away, started moving through the crowd. Victor called after her. Wait, what's your name? The girl looked back over her shoulder. Riley Thompson. And you are? Victor hesitated, then said it quietly, like a confession. Victor Blackwood. Riley's world tilted. The name hit her like a truck. Blackwood, as in Blackwood Motors, as in the company her father had worked for before the accident, as in the CEO who'd sent a generic sympathy card to the funeral and nothing else, as in the man who'd... You, Riley whispered. You're the one who... But Victor Blackwood was already getting back into his car. The Rolls-Royce pulled away, smooth and perfect, running on a system her father had invented, leaving Riley standing in the middle of Woodward Avenue, hands shaking, the crowd dispersing, everything feeling wrong and right and impossible all at once. Behind the Rolls-Royce, stuck 3 cars back in the same traffic, sat a black Mercedes. Marcus Whitmore gripped the steering wheel. 54 years old, board member at Blackwood Motors, 30% shareholder. A man who'd spent the last 2 years trying to drown his grief in work and failing at both. In the car seat beside him, his daughter Sophie watched the whole thing. 5 years old, heart condition that required daily medication and quarterly checkups. Big eyes that saw too much. Daddy, that girl is so brave. Marcus stared at where Riley Thompson had been standing. That was Sarah's daughter, his housekeeper's kid, the one who spent hours in their garage looking at car magazines while her mother cleaned his house. The one who'd just mentioned Michael Thompson. Mike. The engineer who died 14 months ago in what everyone called an accident, but Marcus had never quite believed. Yes, Marcus said quietly. Yes, she is. Sophie pressed her face against the window. Can she be my friend? Marcus didn't answer. He was thinking about Mike Thompson's death, about the safety reports that had been buried, about the patent application that had disappeared, about the hybrid system that had made Blackwood Motors billions, about the family that had gotten nothing but a sympathy card, about the fact that he'd let it happen. Because it was easier to stay quiet, easier to keep collecting dividends, easier to pretend he didn't know. Traffic started moving. Marcus drove home in silence. Sophie fell asleep in her car seat. He carried her inside. Their house was massive, beautiful, cold. It had been cold since Catherine died. Since he'd stopped being present, stopped being a father, stopped being anything except a man who worked too much and felt too little. Sarah Thompson was in the kitchen, cleaning up from dinner that Sophie had eaten alone. Again. Sarah looked up when Marcus entered. Didn't say anything. Didn't have to. The disappointment was clear in her eyes. Mr. Whitmore, Sophie waited for you until 9:30. Marcus set his daughter down gently on the couch, covered her with a blanket. I'm sorry, Sarah. Board meeting ran late. Then there was a conference call with Tokyo and... Sir, Sarah's voice was gentle but firm. She'd worked for Marcus for 2 years, watched him spiral, watched Sophie suffer, kept quiet because she needed this job. But there were limits. With all respect, she needs you. I know, I'm trying. You? Sarah set down the dish towel. Because today she asked me why you don't love her anymore. The words hit Marcus like a physical blow. He sat down heavily at the kitchen table, put his head in his hands. When he spoke, his voice was barely a whisper. I do love her. God, more than anything. Then why do you keep choosing work over her? Long silence. Marcus stared at his hands. Executive hands. Soft, useless. Not like Mike Thompson's hands. Mike had been an engineer before he became management. Still got grease under his fingernails. Still knew how things worked. Because when I'm working, I don't think about Catherine. I don't feel the guilt that I was at the office when she had the stroke. That I missed her last words because I was in a meeting I can't even remember. Work numbs the pain. Sarah sat down across from him. Her voice was softer now, understanding. Mr. Whitmore, Marcus, Catherine is gone. I know that pain. I lost Mike. But Sophie is here. She's alive. She still needs her father. And every day you choose work, you're losing her too. Don't make the same mistake twice. Marcus looked up, really looked at Sarah Thompson for the first time in months. Saw the exhaustion in her face, the strength, the determination of a woman who'd lost everything and kept going anyway. For her daughter. Always for her daughter. I saw Riley today. Your daughter. Sarah tensed. Where? She fixed Victor Blackwood's car. Middle of Woodward Avenue. Diagnosed a hybrid system malfunction in 2 minutes. Fixed it with zip ties and scrap metal. Pride flickered across Sarah's face. Then worry. Then resignation. She shouldn't have done that. Why, what happened to Mike? Sarah's hands gripped the edge of the table, knuckles white. My husband worked for Blackwood Motors for 8 years. Lead engineer. Brilliant. Dedicated. He died in an accident at the plant 14 months ago. Pressure test explosion. They said equipment failure. His fault. Her voice was bitter. Hard. Denied pension. Said he was negligent. But I know Mike. He was never careless. He warned them the test wasn't ready. They pushed anyway. And 3 months after the funeral, Sarah met his eyes, saw that he already knew, already understood. Blackwood announced the Thompson Quantum Drive. Hybrid system Mike spent 3 years developing at our kitchen table. His own time, his designs. They patented it under the company name. Made billions. We got nothing. Not even acknowledgement. Marcus felt something cold settle in his chest. He'd been at the board meeting when they announced the Quantum Drive, had voted to approve the patent, had collected dividends on technology that apparently belonged to a dead man's family, a family that was now struggling to survive. That's the system in Victor's Rolls-Royce. Yes, the one Riley recognized instantly. Because she watched Mike draw every schematic. She was his little helper, his apprentice. Sarah's voice cracked. Now she fixes cars to feel close to him. Did you try to fight them? Of course. Hired a lawyer with money I didn't have. They buried us. Endless motions. Delays. Legal fees I couldn't afford. Eventually I ran out of money. Had to drop the case. That's when I took this job. Needed to feed Riley. Marcus stood up, walked to the window, stared out at the manicured lawn, the pool, the guest house, all bought with money that might have been stolen from the woman cleaning his kitchen. Sarah, if there was evidence Mike invented that system, real solid evidence, would you want to fight again? Sarah's laugh was hollow, defeated. With what? I'm a housekeeper. Riley needs food, shelter, stability, can't afford lawyers, can't risk what little we have. Marcus turned to face her, made a decision. The first real decision he'd made in 2 years that wasn't about profit or dividends or quarterly earnings. What if you didn't have to afford it? The next morning, Riley walked into Martinez Auto Repair with her backpack slung over one shoulder. Same routine as always. After school, she came here. Swept floors, organized tools, learned from Frank Martinez. The old man had been her father's friend. Now he was hers. One of the few people left who remembered Mike Thompson. Frank was at his computer when she walked in, staring at the screen with an expression Riley had never seen before. Somewhere between shock and fury and something that might have been hope. Riley, kid, you need to see this. Riley set down her backpack, walked over. Frank turned the monitor so she could see. It was a video, posted at 9 p.m. the night before. Shaky footage shot through a car window, but the audio was crystal clear. Riley's voice saying, I can fix this. Victor Blackwood's cruel laugh. 15 minutes condensed into 2, showing Riley working under the hood while a crowd gathered. The engine starting. The applause. The caption read, 12-year-old girl fixes billionaire's Rolls-Royce after he mocks her. CEO Victor Blackwood should be ashamed. 3 million views. And counting. Riley stared at the screen, at herself, At this moment that had felt so small and personal and private, now shared with millions of strangers. The comment section was exploding. Thousands of people weighing in, most supportive, some skeptical, all having opinions about something they didn't understand. This girl has more talent than Blackwood's entire engineering team, one comment read. My daughter is 12. Seeing this made her cry. Thank you for showing girls can do anything. I'm a mechanic for 30 years. What she did in 15 minutes would take me an hour. She's genuinely talented, but also staged publicity stunt. Probably broke something. Rich guy was nice to let her try me. Feel bad for the kid being used by her mom for money. Riley felt sick. This wasn't supposed to happen. She just wanted to fix a car, to use what her father had taught her, to feel close to him for 15 minutes. Now millions of people were watching, judging, making assumptions about her life and her mother and her motives. Kid, Frank's voice was gentle. I need you straight with me. That hybrid system you mentioned, in your dad's notebooks. That's the Thomson quantum drive, isn't it? Riley nodded, couldn't speak. Her throat was too tight. And you think Blackwood stole it from your dad? I know they did. Frank pulled up a chair, sat down heavily. He was 62, had been fixing cars since before Riley was born, had seen every kind of engine design imaginable. And he'd seen Mike Thompson's notebooks, knew what they contained. Show me. Riley pulled out her phone. Photos of her father's 14 notebooks, page after page. Schematics, calculations, test results, all dated 2 years before Blackwood Motors announced the quantum drive. All in her father's handwriting. All proving beyond doubt that Mike Thompson had invented the system that was making Victor Blackwood billions. Frank studied the images. His weathered face grew darker with each swipe. Sweet Jesus, Riley. This is proof, real, honest-to-God proof that your dad invented it. Mom tried to use it, hired a lawyer. But lawyers cost money we didn't have. And Blackwood has a whole team of them. That's how guys like Victor win. Not by being right, but by being able to afford to fight longer than anyone else. Frank handed the phone back. But things are different now. How? You've got the internet's attention, and the internet doesn't like rich guys who steal from dead engineers and mock their kids. Riley's phone started buzzing, text messages from unknown numbers, emails flooding her inbox, friend requests on social media she barely used. One email subject line caught her eye. Detroit Free Press, interview request. Don't respond yet, Frank said quickly. First, we need to make sure you're protected, that your story is airtight, because once you start talking publicly, Blackwood's lawyers are going to come after you with everything they have. I'm not scared of lawyers. You should be, kid. They'll say you're lying, that you fabricated those notebooks, that your mom is using you to extort money. They'll make you look like the bad guy. Riley felt something cold in her stomach, but also something hot. Anger, the kind of anger that had been building for 14 months, since they'd lowered her father into the ground, since they'd told her it was his fault, since they'd stolen his life's work and pretended he never existed. So what do? You get your own expert, someone who can verify your father's work independently, someone they can't dismiss. Frank pulled out his phone, made a call. Hey, Professor Mitchell, it's Frank Martinez from Detroit. Listen, I need a favor. 20 minutes later, Riley was in Frank's truck, driving to Wayne State University, carrying her father's notebooks in a backpack that suddenly felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds. The weight of proof, the weight of justice, the weight of everything her father had been and everything he'd been denied. Professor Robert Mitchell met them in his office. Cramped space overflowing with textbooks and engine parts and whiteboards covered in equations. He was in his 50s, tired eyes that lit up when Frank explained why they'd come. Michael Thompson's daughter. Professor Mitchell studied Riley carefully. I knew your father, not well, but we presented at the same engineering conference 5 years ago. He was brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Did you know about the Thomson quantum drive? Everyone in automotive engineering knows about it. Revolutionary, 40% efficiency improvement without sacrificing power. Blackwood Motors has made billions licensing it to other manufacturers. Professor Mitchell's expression darkened. But I always wondered about the timing. What do you mean? Your father presents a theoretical framework at a conference, dies in an accident 6 months later, and then Blackwood announces a system that's remarkably similar to Mike's presentation. Too similar to be coincidence, but I had no proof. Just suspicion. Riley pulled out the notebooks, all 14 of them, set them on the professor's desk like evidence, like ammunition. These are all his work on the hybrid system. Dated, detailed, everything. Professor Mitchell spent the next hour reading, not skimming, reading, checking every calculation, comparing diagrams to the known specifications of the Blackwood quantum drive. His expression grew more troubled with each page. Finally, he looked up at Riley. His voice was quiet, certain, absolute. This is unquestionable. Your father designed the Thomson quantum drive. Every major innovation, every efficiency improvement. It's all here, in his handwriting, dated months before Blackwood filed their patent. Can you testify to that? Absolutely. But Riley, you need to understand what you're up against. Blackwood Motors is worth billions. They've built their reputation on this technology. If you prove they stole it, you're not just taking money from them. You're destroying their credibility, potentially opening them up to lawsuits from every company they've licensed the technology to. They will fight with everything they have. Good, they deserve it. Maybe so, but you need serious legal representation. Real representation, not a public defender or a small-time lawyer. You need someone who can stand up to Blackwood's legal team. Riley's phone buzzed, email notification. She opened it with hands that were shaking just slightly. From Morrison and Associates Law Firm. Subject, pro bono representation offer. Miss Thompson, we saw the video of you repairing Mr. Blackwood's vehicle. We've also been made aware of your father's stolen intellectual property. Our firm specializes in corporate theft cases. We would like to offer our services pro bono. If your father's notebooks contain what we believe they do, this case could set a precedent for protecting individual inventors' rights against corporate theft. Riley looked up at Frank, then at Professor Mitchell. Her voice was barely a whisper. I think I just got a lawyer. The coffee shop was neutral territory, public enough to be safe, private enough to talk. Marcus Whitmore arrived 15 minutes early, took a corner booth, ordered coffee he wouldn't drink. His hands were sweating. He couldn't remember the last time his hands had sweated. Sophie sat beside him in the booth, 5 years old, coloring in a book. She'd insisted on coming. Said she wanted to meet the brave girl from the video. Marcus had tried to explain that this was a business meeting. Sophie had looked at him with those big eyes and asked if the brave girl had a name. When Marcus said Riley, Sophie had smiled and said that was a pretty name, and could Riley please be her friend. Marcus had given up arguing after that. Sarah Thompson arrived exactly on time, Riley beside her. The girl looked smaller in person, more fragile. But her eyes had that same directness Marcus remembered from the video, that same unshakable certainty. Sophie looked up from her coloring book, smiled at Riley. Hi, I'm Sophie. You're really brave. Riley blinked, looked at this little girl, this stranger who was smiling at her like they were already friends. Something in Riley's chest loosened just slightly. Thanks, I'm Riley. I know, Daddy told me. He said you fixed a really expensive car. That's so cool. The adult sat down. Sarah looked at Marcus with suspicion and hope warring in her expression. Marcus cleared his throat, pushed a folder across the table. Mrs. Thompson, I want to help you fight Blackwood Motors. Sarah's laugh was hollow. Why? You're on the board. Because I looked into Mike's death, deep dive, and something is very wrong. He opened the folder. Inside were documents, safety reports, emails, patent applications, all the pieces that had been buried. All the evidence that Marcus had spent 3 days digging up from company archives that most board members never bothered to access. Safety reports Mike filed, all marked urgent, all ignored by management. The test he died in. Mike specifically said the system wasn't ready. Victor pushed it through anyway, and most damning. Marcus pulled out a single sheet, preliminary patent application, filed by Mike 2 weeks before his death, for the Thomson quantum drive, under his name only. Sarah's hands trembled as she picked up the document. Read it again, started crying. Victor had it killed, claimed company ownership per employment contract, then pushed the fatal test anyway. Riley was staring at Marcus. Why are you helping us? You're one of them. Marcus looked at his daughter. Sophie was showing Riley her coloring book. The two girls bent over the pages together, Sophie explaining what each color meant. Riley listening like it was the most important thing in the world. Because I've spent 2 years being an absent father, choosing profit over family, work over my daughter. I look at you, Riley, fighting for your father's legacy, and I realize I'm throwing away my chance to have one with Sophie. He turned back to Sarah. If I can help you get justice for Mike, maybe I can learn to be the father I promised Catherine I'd be. Sophie tugged on Marcus's sleeve. Daddy, I like Riley. Can she be my friend? Would you like that? If I became someone who fights for what's right? Sophie nodded enthusiastically, looked at Riley with pure hope. Marcus turned to Sarah and Riley. So what do you say? Will you let me help? Before Sarah could answer, the bell above the coffee shop door chimed. A woman entered, 50s, silver hair, kind eyes but sharp. She walked directly to their table. Marcus Whitmore? Sarah Thompson? I'm Patricia Morrison. I believe we have some corporate thieves to destroy. The alliance was forming. 2 families, 1 truth, a chance at justice that had seemed impossible just days ago. Riley felt something she hadn't felt in 14 months. Something that felt almost like hope. But across town, in the security center at Blackwood Motors headquarters, Diane Blackwood watched footage from the coffee shop on multiple screens. Traffic cameras, street cameras, every angle. She'd been monitoring Marcus since he started asking questions about Mike Thompson. Now he was meeting with the family, bringing in lawyers, making this a problem. She picked up her phone, speed dialed. Victor answered on the first ring. We have a situation. Whitmore just allied with the Thompson family. He's got lawyers, evidence. This could actually hurt us. So what do we do? Diane's smile was cold, calculated, completely devoid of warmth or humanity. We remind Marcus where his loyalties should be. He wants to protect the Thompson family? Fine, but not when it puts his own family at risk. She made another call, different number. This one answered by someone who asked no questions, just took orders. I need full background on Marcus Whitmore, specifically his daughter. Sophie, age 5, heart condition, medical records, doctor, school, everything. I need leverage, and I need it fast. She hung up, turned to Victor, who'd entered the security room. By tomorrow, Marcus will back off, or he'll learn what happens when you betray Blackwood Motors. Victor looked uncomfortable. Diane, we're talking about a child. Mike Thompson had a child too. Didn't stop us then. Won't stop us now. Collateral damage, Victor. Cost of doing business. Are you in or are you out? Victor hesitated, then nodded, because he'd been nodding to Diane's plans for 14 months. Because it was easier than standing up to her. Because he was weak and she was strong, and this was how things worked. I'm in. The next afternoon, Sophie Whitmore was playing in the backyard of the Whitmore estate. Riley was visiting. The 2 girls had become inseparable in less than 24 hours. The way children do, the way adults forget is possible. They were chasing butterflies, laughing, being exactly what they were. Children, innocent, unaware of the war brewing around them. Sarah Thompson sat on the patio, folding laundry, keeping one eye on the girls, one eye on her phone. Patricia Morrison had sent draft legal filings. Sarah was reading them, trying to understand the language, the strategy, the scope of what they were about to attempt. The gardener's truck was parked near the garage. Engine running. The gardener was trimming hedges on the far side of the property. Standard Wednesday maintenance. Nothing unusual, nothing worth noticing. Until the truck suddenly roared to life. Tires screeching, backing up fast, straight toward the girls. Sarah's scream cut through the afternoon like a knife. Sophie! Riley! Riley saw it first, turned, saw the truck barreling toward them, saw Sophie frozen, terrified. No time to think, only time to move. Riley launched herself at Sophie, shoved her, hard. Both girls hit the ground. The truck missed by inches, kept going, crashed into the garden wall, finally stopped. Marcus came running from his home office. Dr. James Parker right behind him. They'd been reviewing medical files, planning Sophie's next checkup. Now they were running towards screaming and crashed vehicles and their daughters on the ground. Sophie! Riley! Both girls were crying. Sophie from fear, Riley from pain. Her arm was scraped, bleeding, but alive. Both alive. The gardener stumbled out of the truck, pale, shaking. I don't know what happened. The accelerator stuck. I couldn't stop it. Marcus went to the truck, checked underneath. His face went white. Brake lines cut. Accelerator jammed with a wedge. This wasn't an accident. This was attempted murder. Dr. Parker was already checking the girls. Sophie was fine, scared but unhurt. Riley had scrapes, bruises, nothing serious. But she'd saved Sophie's life, thrown herself at danger without thinking, without hesitating. Marcus's phone rang. Unknown number. He answered with hands that were shaking. Who is this? The voice was disguised, electronic, cold. Mr. Whitmore, I hope your daughter is well. Who the hell is this? Someone who wants you to remember that board members should be loyal. Digging into the past is dangerous, especially when you have so much to lose. Stay focused on Sophie's safety. Forget the Thompson family, or next time Riley might not be there to save her. The line went dead. Marcus stood there, phone in hand, looking at his daughter, at Riley, at Sarah, who was holding both girls, at Dr. Parker, who was radiating quiet fury. Everything crystallized in that moment. The choice, the line, the point of no return. They went after Sophie. Who? Dr. Parker asked. Blackwood, Victor, Diane, whoever killed Mike. Marcus looked at the two girls, at Riley, who'd saved his daughter without thinking, at Sophie, who was clinging to Riley like she was a lifeline. They tried to kill children, to protect a lie. Sarah's voice was shaking. Mr. Whitmore. Marcus, maybe you should stop. They're right. Sophie's in danger. I can't ask you to risk your daughter for my family. Riley spoke up, voice small but determined. No, we can't give up. That's what they want. She looked at her mother. Mom, Dad wouldn't want us to quit. He died fighting for what's right. We have to finish it. Marcus knelt down, eye level with Sophie. Baby, I need to ask you something important. Those bad people want Daddy to stop helping Riley's family. If Daddy keeps helping, it might be dangerous. Should Daddy stop, or should Daddy keep fighting? Sophie looked at Riley, at the girl who just saved her life, at her new friend who knew what it meant to lose a parent, who understood loneliness and loss and the desperate need to make things right. Riley saved me, so we should save her too. That's what heroes do. They don't give up. Marcus hugged his daughter, felt tears on his cheeks, hadn't cried in 2 years. Couldn't stop now. He stood, looked at Sarah and Riley, at Dr. Parker, at the broken truck and the cut brake lines and the reality of what they were facing. This just became personal. They made it about my daughter. Now I'm going to destroy them. He pulled out his phone, called Patricia Morrison. They tried to kill Sophie, attempted murder of a 5-year-old to intimidate me. I'm moving to vote no confidence in Victor Blackwood. I'm recommending criminal investigation into Mike Thompson's death. How fast can we move? Patricia's voice was steel. Fast. I'll have filings ready by morning. Good. And Patricia, we need protection. Can you recommend security? The best. Former Marines. They'll be there in an hour. Marcus hung up, looked at Dr. Parker. We can't stay here. House is compromised. Frank Martinez has property outside the city, 20 acres, old farmhouse, isolated, defensible. Then that's where we go, all of us, tonight. Riley pulled her father's notebooks from her backpack, all 14, plus the USB drive with backups, everything they needed to prove theft, to prove murder, to prove that Mike Thompson had been brilliant and honest and right. This is everything. Marcus took the notebooks carefully, like they were sacred text, like they were weapons, which they were. Then we have everything we need to finish this. He looked at the assembled group, his daughter, Sarah, Riley, Dr. Parker. Soon Frank would join them. Soon they'd have lawyers and security and a plan. But right now they were just two families who'd lost too much, who'd been hurt too deeply, who'd finally found the courage to fight back. We're not just fighting for Mike anymore. We're fighting for every person Blackwood Motors has hurt, for justice, for family, for what's right. Riley said it quietly. So quietly, Marcus almost missed it. I can fix this. Everyone looked at her. This 12-year-old girl who'd started all of this by fixing a car, by recognizing her father's stolen work, by refusing to stay silent. That's what Dad always said, about everything broken, not just engines, broken systems, broken justice, broken promises. He said if something's broken, you fix it. Marcus smiled. For the first time in 2 years, it felt real. Then let's fix this, together. But in the security center at Blackwood Motors, Diane Blackwood was making other plans. The attempt on Sophie had failed. Marcus was more committed than before. The situation was escalating, which meant the solution had to escalate too. She made a call, different number, higher price, more permanent solution. I need a specialist, multiple targets, 5 people, including 2 children. I need it done tonight. The voice on the other end asked for details. Diane provided them. Names, addresses, schedules. Everything needed for a clean operation, for a final solution, for the kind of problem solving that left no witnesses and no evidence. When she hung up, Victor was standing in the doorway, looking sick, looking old. Diane, 2 children. We can't. She turned to him with eyes like ice. We already killed one engineer. Already let his daughter grow up without a father. We're past the point of moral objections, Victor. We're criminals. We're murderers. The only question now is whether we're successful murderers or imprisoned ones. But Sophie Whitmore is 5 years old, and Mike Thompson's daughter was 10 when we killed her father. Your conscience didn't bother you then. Why now? Victor had no answer, because she was right. He'd crossed the line 14 months ago. Everything since was just arithmetic, just more bodies, just more collateral damage in service of profit and pride, and the desperate need to avoid consequences. Are you in, or are you out? Victor closed his eyes, thought about his house, his cars, his reputation, his billions, everything he'd built, everything he'd stolen, everything he'd killed to protect. I'm in, Diane smiled, turned back to her screens, to the surveillance feed showing Marcus Whitmore loading his family into cars, heading to some unknown safe location, running like prey, like victims, like people who thought they could escape. But there was no escape. There was only what happened next. And what happened next would be permanent. The war had begun. 2 families against a billion-dollar corporation, truth against power, justice against profit, and somewhere in the middle, 2 girls who just wanted their fathers to be remembered, who just wanted the world to know that good men had existed, had mattered, had deserved better than what they got. The sun set on Detroit, night fell, and in the darkness, both sides prepared for what was coming, for the battle that would determine whether courage or money would win, whether truth or lies would prevail, whether broken things could really be fixed, or whether some damage was permanent, some losses irreversible, some promises impossible to keep. Riley Thompson clutched her father's notebooks. Sophie Whitmore held Riley's hand, and together 2 daughters of loss moved forward into whatever came next. Because that's what her father had taught her. When something's broken, you fix it. Even when you're scared, even when you're outnumbered, even when the whole world says it's impossible. You fix it anyway. The farmhouse sat 20 miles outside Detroit. Frank Martinez had owned the property for 30 years. 20 acres of woods and overgrown fields. A house that needed work but had good bones. Most importantly, it had distance, privacy. The kind of isolation that made it hard for strangers to approach without being seen. Marcus drove through the night, Sophie asleep in the back seat, Sarah following in her car with Riley, Dr. Parker bringing up the rear. 3 vehicles carrying 5 people and 14 notebooks that could bring down an empire. Frank was waiting when they arrived. The old man stood on the porch with a shotgun cradled in his arms, not pointed at anything, just there, present, a statement about what came next. "Welcome to the fortress," Frank said. His voice was dry, but his eyes were serious. "Nobody gets in or out without going through me." Inside, the farmhouse was simple, clean, 4 bedrooms, a kitchen that smelled like coffee and motor oil, a living room with furniture that had seen better decades. It wasn't the Whitmore estate, but it was safe. And right now, safe mattered more than comfortable. Marcus set Sophie down on the couch, covered her with a blanket, watched her sleep. 5 years old, heart condition, nearly killed twice in 2 days. Once by neglect when he'd chosen work over family. Once by murder when he'd chosen justice over silence. Riley sat beside Sophie, watching over her new friend. Sarah sat beside Riley, watching over her daughter. Dr. Parker made coffee. Frank checked windows and doors, and Marcus stood there feeling something he hadn't felt in 2 years. Purpose. "We need a plan," Patricia Morrison said. She'd arrived an hour after them, brought 2 former Marines who were now setting up a perimeter, installing cameras, making sure the farmhouse became what Frank had jokingly called it, a fortress. "The plan is simple," Marcus said. "We prove theft. We prove murder. We put Victor and Diane in prison." "Nothing about this is simple, but it's doable, especially with what you've given me." Patricia spread documents across Frank's kitchen table. Safety reports, emails, patent applications, the paper trail of corporate crime. But she was looking at the notebooks, Mike Thompson's 14 journals of genius, evidence that couldn't be faked or dismissed or explained away. "These are gold. Professor Mitchell's testimony will be platinum. But we need more. We need something that proves intent. That shows they knew Mike invented the quantum drive. That shows they killed him deliberately." Riley spoke up from the couch, quiet but certain. "The memory card." Everyone turned. Riley was holding notebook number 7, opening it carefully, revealing a hidden compartment in the spine, a slot barely visible, meant to hold something small. "Sophie found it when we were looking through the notebooks earlier. There's a compartment, and something falls out when you open it this way." Riley tilted the notebook. A tiny SD card slipped out, landed on the couch cushion, smaller than a fingernail, containing who knew what. Sarah's hand went to her mouth. "I never knew that was there. Dad was careful. He hid things, important things." Marcus picked up the memory card, held it like it was nitroglycerin. "Do we have a computer?" Frank pulled out an old laptop, booted it up. Took 3 minutes. The machine was ancient, but it worked. Marcus inserted the SD card, waited. Files appeared on screen. Video files, dated 2 weeks before Mike Thompson died. Marcus clicked the first file. The video player opened, and there was Mike Thompson, alive, in his garage, looking tired, looking scared, looking directly into the camera like he was talking to someone specific, someone important. "My name is Michael Thompson. If you're watching this, I'm probably dead." Sarah made a sound, part sob, part gasp. Riley went very still. This was her father, not a memory, not a photograph, moving, speaking. "Real." Mike's voice continued. "I've discovered corporate espionage at Blackwood Motors. Someone is stealing my quantum drive designs, feeding them to a competitor, or planning to sell them. I've traced it to someone I can't believe would do this. Someone at the highest levels." Marcus leaned closer to the screen. This was it. This was proof. VP Diane Blackwood, the CEO's wife. She's the one. I have evidence, emails, financial transfers. She's selling my work to overseas manufacturers, getting paid offshore, making millions while I do the actual engineering. The video showed Mike pulling out printed emails, holding them to camera, clear enough to read, clear enough to verify. Diane's name on every page. I confronted her today, showed her what I found. She denied everything, said I was paranoid, overworked, seeing conspiracies where none existed. But I saw her face, saw the fear. She knows I know. Second video file, dated 1 week later. I filed a police report today. Also filing patent under my name only. Quantum drive belongs to me. Developed at home. My resources, my time. Blackwood Motors will try to claim ownership. But I have proof, documentation, witnesses. Mike paused, ran his hand through his hair. He looked exhausted. Diane called me tonight, said I was making a mistake, that I should drop the police report, drop the patent claim, that it would be better for my family if I did. She threatened me, not directly, but clear enough. I'm scared, but I can't stop now. Truth matters more than fear. Third video file, dated the day before Mike died. This version of Mike was different, agitated, pacing, looking at the camera with eyes that knew what was coming. They're pushing the pressure test tomorrow. I said the system isn't ready. Victor overruled me. Diane insisted. They want me in the test chamber. First time they have ever asked that. First time in 8 years I'm supposed to be inside during a pressure test. Mike's hands were shaking. I think this is a setup. I think they're going to kill me. Make it look like equipment failure. My fault. The paranoid engineer who didn't follow safety protocols. He held up a key. Small. Brass. If something happens to me, tell Sarah and Riley I love them. Tell them I fought for what was right. And tell them evidence is in safety deposit box at First National Bank. Box 447. Key is hidden in Riley's teddy bear. The big one. The one Sarah made when Riley was born. Mike looked directly at the camera, directly at whoever would eventually watch this. Don't let them get away with this. Don't let them steal my work and pretend I never existed. Please, for my daughter. For every engineer who ever got crushed by corporate greed. Don't let them win. The video ended. The room was silent except for Sarah's quiet crying. Riley was holding Sophie's hand, squeezing tight. Both girls understanding what they just witnessed. A man predicting his own murder. A father saying goodbye. Marcus ejected the SD card, held it up. This is murder confession. Premeditated, calculated, criminal. This changes everything, Patricia said. With this and the notebooks and Professor Mitchell, we have an airtight case. We need what's in that safety deposit box. Sarah stood up, walked to where they'd piled their bags. Pulled out a worn teddy bear, large, old, handmade with love and in expert stitching. She turned it over, found the seam along the back, started opening stitches. Inside the stuffing was a small brass key. He hid it before he died. Knew I'd keep the bear safe. Knew Riley would never throw it away. Sarah's voice was steady now, determined. Mike was always 3 steps ahead, always planning, always protecting us, even when he knew he couldn't protect himself. Bank opens at 9, Marcus said. I'll go with security, get whatever Mike left there. We all go, Riley said. This is about Dad. We should be there. Marcus looked at the girl, 12 years old, about to see whatever final message her father had left, whatever evidence he'd hidden, whatever pieces of himself he'd managed to preserve before they killed him. Okay, we all go. First National Bank opened at 9 a.m. sharp. Marcus arrived with Sarah and Riley, 2 security guards flanking them. Dr. Parker waiting in the car with Sophie, Frank watching the perimeter, everyone on edge, everyone waiting for the next attack. The bank manager was professional, sympathetic, checked Marcus's paperwork, Sarah's death certificate for Mike, legal documents establishing Sarah as executor of his estate. Everything was in order. Everything was legal. They went to the vault. The manager opened box 447. Inside was a large envelope, sealed. Mike's handwriting on the front. For my family. For the truth. Sarah opened it with shaking hands. Inside were documents. So many documents. Original patent application with Mike's signature only. Lab notebooks more detailed than the copies at home. Printed emails between Diane and someone named Chen Li. Emails discussing selling the quantum drive to a Chinese manufacturer. Financial records showing $500,000 transferred to Diane's offshore account. And a letter, handwritten, addressed to whom it may concern. Marcus read it aloud, his voice steady, professional, but inside he was burning. If you're reading this, I didn't make it. Diane Blackwood is a corporate spy, and worse, She's planning to steal my quantum drive and sell it to the highest bidder. When I threatened to expose her, she planned my death. Victor may or may not be involved. I don't know, but I know she's dangerous, ruthless, will kill to protect her secret. Please protect my family and make sure my daughter knows her father died fighting for what's right. That matters. And to Riley, never stop fixing what's broken. I love you, Dad. Riley took the letter, held it like it was sacred, like it was the last piece of her father she'd ever touch. Traced his handwriting with fingers that remembered being taught to write by these same hands. Sarah's phone rang. Frank. Urgent. Something's wrong at the farmhouse. Security cameras went dark 10 minutes ago. I'm inside with Sophie, but I hear movement outside. Multiple vehicles. They're here. Get back now. Marcus didn't wait. Ran. Sarah and Riley right behind him. Security guards calling for backup. Dr. Parker already driving. Racing back to the farmhouse. 25 minutes that felt like hours. When they arrived, 3 black SUVs were parked outside. Front door kicked in. Marcus grabbed a weapon from security, ignored their protests, ran inside. Sophie! Sounds from upstairs, struggling, shouting. Marcus took stairs 3 at a time. Bedroom door locked from inside. He could hear Sophie crying, hear Frank's voice low and urgent, hear men demanding entry. Marcus hit the door with his shoulder. Once, twice. Wood cracking. Third time it gave way. Burst open. Inside were Sophie and Riley, huddled together on the floor. Sarah shielding both girls with her body, Frank standing guard with his shotgun, and 2 men in tactical gear, armed, professional, hired. The lead intruder turned, saw Marcus. Mr. Whitmore, Mrs. Blackwood sends her regards. You have something that belongs to her. The Thompson evidence. Hand it over. Everyone walks away. Marcus stepped between the intruders and his family. Over my dead body. That can be arranged. The man raised his weapon, pointed it at Sophie. 5 years old, terrified, clinging to Riley. And Marcus felt something break inside him. Not fear, not hesitation. Clarity. He threw himself forward. Tackled the gunman. They went down hard. The weapon discharged. Bang! Bullet hit ceiling. Plaster rained down. The second intruder moved toward the girls. Frank's shotgun roared. Warning shot. Blew out the window. Next one's in your chest. Security team burst in. 4 former Marines armed, trained, overwhelming. The fight was brief, brutal, efficient. Both intruders subdued, weapons secured, situation controlled. And through it all, Marcus lay on top of the first gunman. Fists bloody, face bloody, not sure whose blood was whose, not caring, just knowing that he'd finally done it, finally been there when his daughter needed him, finally chosen family over everything else. Detective Elena Rodriguez arrived with backup 20 minutes later. Sirens, lights, Detroit PD flooding the farmhouse. The intruders were arrested, read their rights, and immediately one of them started talking. Diane Blackwood hired us, gave us photos, told us to eliminate everyone, said no witnesses, said make it clean. Detective Rodriguez recorded every word, built a case in real time, then turned to Marcus. Mr. Whitmore, I think it's time we had a conversation about what's really going on here, and about why someone just tried to murder your daughter. The press conference happened 3 days later. Police headquarters, packed auditorium, cameras everywhere, media from across the country. This was the story. 12-year-old girl versus billion-dollar corporation. Dead engineer versus CEO. Truth versus power. Detective Rodriguez stood at the podium, tall, professional, absolutely done with corporate corruption. 14 months ago, Michael Thompson died in what was ruled an accidental explosion. Today, we're reopening investigation as homicide. Evidence shows Mr. Thompson was murdered to silence his discovery of corporate espionage led by Diane Blackwood, vice president of Blackwood Motors, who then attempted murder of witnesses, including 2 children. The room erupted, questions shouted, cameras flashing. Detective Rodriguez held up her hand. We have video confession from Mr. Thompson recorded before his death. We have financial evidence of espionage. We have testimony from attempted murder victims. And we have proof that the Thompson quantum drive, which has generated billions for Blackwood Motors, was stolen from Michael Thompson, who invented it on his own time, in his own home, for his own family's future. Marcus stood beside the detective, Sarah and Riley beside him, united front. Riley stepped forward to the microphone, small, young, absolutely certain. My name is Riley Thompson. I'm 12 years old. A week ago, I fixed a Rolls-Royce because my dad taught me how engines work. Today, I learned my dad died trying to protect his life's work from people who wanted to steal it, and that those same people tried to kill my friend Sophie because we found the truth. Her voice was shaking but strong. My dad used to say, I can fix this about everything, not just broken cars, broken promises, broken systems, broken justice. So that's what we're doing. We're fixing what they broke. We're making sure people know Michael Thompson invented the quantum drive, that he was brilliant, that he mattered, that he deserved better than what he got. The video went viral within hours, 15 million views by evening. Justice for Michael Thompson, trending worldwide. Blackwood Motors stock plummeting. Board members scrambling. PR firms working overtime. And somewhere, Victor and Diane Blackwood watching their empire collapse in real time. Victor released a statement. Defensive. Weak. These accusations are baseless. Michael Thompson was a valued employee. His death was a tragic accident. We will cooperate fully with investigation, but expect vindication. Diane's statement was colder, more aggressive. I am innocent. Evidence has been fabricated by disgruntled former employees and opportunistic family members seeking money. I will countersue for defamation. But then came the email, anonymous, sent to Patricia Morrison. Subject line, I can help. I worked with Michael Thompson. I knew what Diane was doing. I stayed silent out of fear. I'm ready to testify, but I need protection. They've killed before. My name is Dr. Jennifer Walsh. I was lead engineer under Mike, and I have evidence. Patricia arranged the meeting. Safe location, police present. Dr. Walsh arrived looking exhausted, scared but determined. I was Mike's colleague for 5 years. He confided in me about Diane's theft. When he died, Diane called me personally, told me to keep quiet or I'd be next. I have emails, documents, recordings of meetings, proof that Victor knew about the espionage, and proof he approved Mike's murder to cover it up. She produced a thumb drive, files going back 3 years, email chain between Victor and Diane. Victor, Thompson is becoming a problem. He won't drop the patent claim. Diane, I'll handle it. Pressure test is scheduled. Victor, make it clean. Company can't survive scandal. Diane, it'll look like equipment failure. His fault for being in the test chamber. Dr. Walsh's voice was steady, clinical, like she was presenting research, not confessing to covering up murder. I watched them plan it, watched them execute it, watched them profit from it, and I said nothing because I was afraid. But then I saw Riley on TV, 12 years old, fighting for her father. And I realized being afraid was no excuse. Not anymore. The FBI raid happened at dawn, simultaneous warrants, Blackwood Motors headquarters, Victor's home, Diane's office, agents everywhere, seizing computers, freezing accounts, building an airtight case. Diane was at her desk when they came, calm, collected, like she'd been expecting this. Diane Blackwood, you're under arrest for murder, conspiracy to commit murder, corporate espionage, and attempted murder of minors. Handcuffs clicked onto her wrists. She showed no emotion, just looked at the agents with cold calculation. My lawyers will have me out by noon, not on federal charges. Welcome to your new reality. Victor was arrested at home, in his pajamas, wife and kids watching. The man who'd built an empire now being led away in handcuffs. He was crying, protesting. I didn't kill anyone. This is Diane's doing. She manipulated me. Save it for your lawyer. The media coverage was relentless. 24/7, every channel, every website. Blackwood CEO arrested for murder. Corporate giant falls. Girl mechanic brings down billion-dollar company. Marcus watched from the farmhouse. Sophie on his lap, Riley beside them, Sarah making dinner. Dr. Parker reading medical journals, Frank cleaning weapons. This strange family they'd become, built from trauma and courage and the desperate need to make things right. Is it over, Daddy? Sophie asked. Not yet, sweetheart, but we're winning. The board meeting happened the next day. Emergency session, Marcus called it, used his 30% stake to force the vote. Walked into that boardroom like he owned it, which in a very real sense, he did. I move we suspend Victor Blackwood immediately, install interim CEO, and fully cooperate with all criminal investigations. The vote was unanimous, self-preservation beating loyalty. Marcus was nominated as interim chairman. He accepted. First order of business. Full audit of Michael Thompson's contributions. Second, contact Thompson family for restitution discussion. Third, implement whistleblower protections so this never happens again. After the meeting, Marcus drove to Sophie's cardiologist, regular checkup, making sure the stress hadn't triggered any problems. Dr. Parker examined her carefully. She's stable, heart strong, she's resilient, like her father. Like her mother, you mean? Both. Catherine would be proud of you, Marcus. You finally chose Sophie over everything else. Took me long enough. Sophie hugged him after the checkup. You're the best daddy ever. First time she'd said that in 2 years. Marcus felt tears on his face. Couldn't stop them. Didn't want to. That evening, Marcus drove to the cemetery. First time since Catherine's funeral. Couldn't face it before. Too much guilt, too much failure. But now, with Sophie beside him, holding his hand, he could do this. Could face what he'd been running from. Mommy's here? Sophie asked. Yes, baby. This is where she rests. They placed flowers on the grave. Daisies, Catherine's favorite. Sophie knelt down, touched the headstone gently. Hi, Mommy. I'm Sophie. I'm 5 now. Daddy's been really brave lately. He saved me and Riley from bad people. I think you'd like Riley. She's my best friend. Marcus knelt beside his daughter, put his hand on the cold stone, felt the weight of 2 years pressing down, the weight of promises broken and promises kept, the weight of becoming someone his daughter could be proud of. Hi, Kath. I'm sorry it took so long to come back. I was scared. Scared of feeling the grief again. But something happened. This girl, Riley, she lost her father, and watching her fight for his memory made me realize I was wasting the time I have with Sophie. You asked me to be there for her. I wasn't. I'm sorry. But I am now, every day, every moment. I promise. He took off his wedding ring, had worn it for 2 years after Catherine died. Couldn't let go. But now he could. Now he was ready to live again. I'll always love you, but I need to move forward. For Sophie, for the family we're building. Thank you for everything. I'll take it from here. Sophie took his hand. Do you think Mommy can see us? I think so. Then she knows you're being a good daddy now, and she's not sad anymore. They walked back to the car, hand in hand, father and daughter, together, present, real. Riley and Sarah were waiting at the farmhouse. Marcus had offered them the guest house on his property. Permanent home, better schools for Riley, stability, safety. Sarah had accepted, not as his housekeeper, as his partner in running the Thompson Blackwood Technologies, the company's new name, honoring the man who'd made it all possible. That night, all of them ate dinner together. Marcus, Sophie, Sarah, Riley, Dr. Parker, Frank. This strange extended family built from loss and courage and the refusal to accept injustice. Riley held up her glass of juice. To Dad, who taught me that broken things can be fixed, if you're brave enough to try on. Marcus raised his glass. To Mike, who changed everything, and to Catherine, who taught me family is all that matters. To family, everyone said together. Sophie and Riley ran off to play. 2 girls who'd become sisters, who'd saved each other's lives, who understood loss in ways children should never have to understand. Marcus watched them go, felt something in his chest that had been cold for 2 years finally warming. Purpose, connection, love. Sarah sat beside him. Thank you for everything, for believing us, for risking Sophie, for fighting when everyone else had given up. Thank you for showing me what courage looks like, for teaching me that it's never too late to be better. Outside the window, the sun was setting over Frank's property, over the farmhouse that had become a fortress, over the land that had kept them safe while they fought impossible battles. The trial would come, the verdicts, the sentencing, the final accounting of everything Diane and Victor had done, but tonight they had this moment, this family, this peace. Riley's laughter drifted from the other room, Sophie's joining it, the sound of children who'd been through hell and come out the other side, not unscathed, not undamaged, but alive, together, healing. Marcus closed his eyes, felt Catherine's presence. Not grief anymore, not guilt, just love, just gratitude for what they'd had, just determination to honor her memory by being the father she'd begged him to be. I kept my promise, Kath, he whispered. Finally, I kept my promise. And somewhere in whatever place Catherine Whitmore had gone, maybe she smiled. Maybe she saw her husband and daughter holding hands, saw them building something good from something broken, saw them fixing what had seemed unfixable. Maybe she knew that her death hadn't been meaningless, that her final words had mattered, that promises, even when broken, could be repaired, that broken things could be fixed, if someone was brave enough to try. 6 months passed like water through fingers. Winter became spring, snow melted, Detroit bloomed, and through it all, two families learned what it meant to heal while waiting for justice. The Whitmore estate had changed. Sophie's laughter filled rooms that had been silent for years. Riley's tools scattered across the garage, where Marcus had never allowed clutter before. Sarah's presence in the kitchen, not as housekeeper, as family, as partner. As the woman who'd shown Marcus what strength really looked like. The trial was scheduled for late May. People versus Diane Blackwood. People versus Victor Blackwood. Two separate proceedings. Same evidence. Same witnesses. Same inevitable conclusion. Marcus woke early on the first day. Found Sophie already awake, dressed in her Sunday best. The clothes they'd bought special for this. For the day they'd tell the world what had really happened to Michael Thompson. Are you scared, Daddy? A little, are you? A little, but Riley says being scared is okay, as long as you do the right thing anyway. Marcus smiled. 12-year-old wisdom from a girl who'd seen too much, who'd lost too much, who somehow still believed the world could be fixed. They drove to the courthouse together, Marcus and Sophie, Sarah and Riley, Dr. Parker, Frank, Patricia Morrison, all of them walking through a gauntlet of cameras and reporters and people who'd followed this story for months. Who'd made Riley Thompson a household name? Who'd turned Michael Thompson from forgotten engineer into symbol of everything wrong with corporate America? The courtroom was packed, every seat filled, media in the back rows, sketch artists capturing moments that cameras weren't allowed to record, and at the defense table, Diane Blackwood, immaculate, cold, showing no emotion except faint contempt for the proceedings. The prosecution was led by Sarah Martinez, no relation to Detective Rodriguez despite the shared name. Sarah Martinez was Detroit-born, Detroit-raised, had spent 20 years putting away people who thought money made them untouchable. She looked at Diane Blackwood like she was already convicted. This case is about greed, Sarah Martinez began. Her opening statement was surgical, precise. About murder, about corporate conspiracy. Michael Thompson was a brilliant engineer, a loving father, an honest man. He invented technology worth billions. Diane Blackwood stole it. When he discovered the theft, she killed him, with Victor Blackwood's approval and assistance. Then they tried to kill witnesses, including a 5-year-old child. We will prove every word. Diane's lawyer stood. Richard Chen, expensive suit, expensive watch, expensive reputation for getting guilty people acquitted. Diane Blackwood is innocent. Michael Thompson's death was a tragic accident. The so-called evidence has been fabricated by disgruntled former employees, by a family seeking money, by people who want to destroy a successful woman because she dared to succeed in a man's world. We will show that Mrs. Blackwood is the victim here, of a corporate coup, of a conspiracy, of lies. Day 3 of trial, Riley Thompson was called to testify. 12 years old, small for her age, walking to the witness stand like she was walking to her execution. But her voice when she took the oath was steady, clear, unbreakable. The prosecutor approached gently. Riley, can you tell us about your father? Riley looked at the jury, 12 people who would decide if her father's death mattered, if his life had value, if justice was real or just a word people used. My dad was the best person I knew. He loved engines, loved making things work. He taught me everything: how to fix cars, how to solve problems, how to do the right thing even when it's hard. Did your father invent the Thomson quantum drive? Yes, I watched him design it at our kitchen table every night after work, sometimes until 2 in the morning. He wanted to make cars cleaner, better for the planet, for my future, he said. The prosecutor played Mike Thompson's video. The courtroom went silent, watching a dead man predict his own murder, watching him say goodbye to his daughter, watching him beg someone, anyone, to make sure the truth came out. When it ended, half the jury was crying. Riley was crying, but her voice stayed steady. When did you first see this video? 6 months ago. We found the memory card hidden in his notebook. He'd prepared for this, knew they might kill him, left evidence so we could prove what happened. What did you feel when you saw it? Angry, sad, but also proud. Proud that he tried to do the right thing, even knowing it was dangerous, even knowing it might cost him everything. Diane's lawyer stood for cross-examination. Richard Chen approached Riley with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Miss Thompson, isn't it true your mother is now vice president at the renamed company, making $250,000 per year? I think so. Quite an upgrade from housekeeper, almost like a reward for making accusations. Patricia Morrison objected, sustained, but the seed was planted. Financial motive. The jury saw it. You were 10 when your father died, correct? Yes. And you claim to understand complex engineering based on notebooks you read? I understand what my dad taught me. Or did someone else teach you what to say? Coach you to claim your father's work? Riley's eyes flashed, anger breaking through composure. No, this is my dad's. I would never lie about him. He was brilliant and honest, and they killed him and stole everything he made. Her voice cracked on the last word. The jury saw a child, grief-stricken, furious, absolutely certain of her truth. Patricia Morrison stood for redirect. Riley, did anyone tell you what to say today? No, I'm telling the truth about my dad. And these notebooks, are they your father's handwriting? Yes, I've seen it my whole life. I know my dad's writing better than anything. No further questions. The impact was visible. Jury members wiping eyes, taking notes, looking at Diane Blackwood with something new in their expressions. Not doubt anymore. Certainty, Doctor. Jennifer Walsh testified next. Her evidence was devastating. Emails showing the conspiracy, financial records proving the theft, recorded conversations where Victor and Diane discussed eliminating the Thompson problem. Her voice never wavered. Clinical, professional, damning. I watched them plan Michael's murder, watched them execute it, watched them profit from it, and I said nothing because I was afraid. But fear is not an excuse for letting evil win. The defense tried to break her, failed. Dr. Walsh had spent 6 months preparing for this, had given up everything to testify. Her career, her reputation, her safety. She wasn't backing down now. Professor Mitchell verified the notebooks, confirmed that every innovation in the quantum drive came from Mike Thompson's work, confirmed the dates proved Mike invented it before Blackwood filed patents, confirmed that any engineer who looked at this evidence would reach the same conclusion. Theft, murder, cover-up. Day 7. Victor Blackwood's trial running parallel. His lawyer approached the judge with emotion. Victor Blackwood wished to change his plea. Guilty, in exchange for testimony against Diane Blackwood. The courtroom erupted. Diane's face showed emotion for the first time. Rage, pure, incandescent, directed at the man who'd been her partner, her co-conspirator, her husband. Victor took the stand in Diane's trial, broken, old, nothing left of the CEO who'd built an empire. I approved the pressure test that killed Michael Thompson. Diane told me he was becoming a problem. that he was going to destroy the company with false accusations. She showed me fake evidence that Mike was selling designs to competitors. I believed her, or I wanted to believe her, because it was easier than admitting we'd stolen from him. What happened the day Michael died? Diane sabotaged the test chamber, made it look like equipment failure. We knew Mike would try to save his prototypes, knew he'd be in the chamber when it failed. It was murder, premeditated, calculated. And I let it happen because I was weak and she was strong, and I valued money more than human life. Victor's testimony lasted 4 hours. By the end, Diane's defense was shattered. Her lawyer tried to salvage it, called Diane to testify, against all advice, against all reason. Diane took the stand like she was walking into battle, composed, defiant, unrepentant. "Mr. Chen, did you kill Michael Thompson?" "No, his death was an accident caused by his own negligence." The prosecution stood. Sarah Martinez approached with video evidence, security footage from the test chamber, showing Diane entering alone the night before the test, showing her tampering with equipment, showing her sabotaging the very systems meant to keep engineers safe. "Mrs. Blackwood, is this you on the security footage?" Diane's mask cracked, just slightly, just enough. "That footage is out of context. Is it you, yes or no?" "Yes, but I was performing routine maintenance. At 2 a.m. alone, on equipment you're not certified to service? I was helping." "Helping or murdering?" "Objection. Withdrawn. Mrs. Blackwood, did you order the attack on Sophie Whitmore and Riley Thompson?" "No." Sarah Martinez played a recording, phone call between Diane and the hired attackers. Diane's voice clear, unmistakable. "I need multiple targets eliminated. 5 people, including 2 children. I need it done tonight." Diane's face went white, then red, then something beyond color, beyond human. She stood up, screamed at the prosecutor. "He deserved it. Thompson deserved it. He was stealing from me. The technology was mine. I developed it. He just wrote it down. And that brat daughter of his, that little wretch who thinks she's special because she can fix a car, she was in my way. They were all in my way. I built Blackwood Motors. Me, not Victor, not some dead engineer with delusions of grandeur. Me." Her lawyer was pulling her back, trying to salvage something from this catastrophic breakdown. But Diane wasn't done. "And I do it again, all of it, because in business you do what you must. You eliminate obstacles. You take what's yours. That's how you win. That's how you survive." The judge was banging his gavel. Bailiffs were restraining Diane. And through it all, she kept screaming, kept confessing, kept revealing the sociopath she'd hidden beneath expensive suits and corporate polish. When order was finally restored, Diane was removed from the courtroom. Still shouting, still raging, still utterly unable to comprehend that she'd lost. The jury deliberated 3 hours, came back with verdict. Count 1, first-degree murder of Michael Thompson, guilty. Count 2, attempted murder of Sophie Whitmore, guilty. Count 3, an attempted murder of Riley Thompson, guilty. Count 4, an attempted murder of Sarah Thompson, guilty. Count 5, attempted murder of Marcus Whitmore, guilty. Count 6, corporate espionage, guilty. Count 7, obstruction of justice, guilty. Diane showed no reaction, just sat there, empty, defeated, a monster finally caged. Sentencing happened 2 weeks later. Victor first, federal judge. No mercy in her eyes. "Victor Blackwood, you enabled murder. You profited from theft. You endangered children. You betrayed every principle of leadership and human decency. You will serve 30 years in federal prison, eligible for parole after 15. You will serve every day you've earned." Victor nodded, accepted it, looked at his family in the gallery, his children who would grow up knowing their father was a murderer, his wife who was filing for divorce. Everything he'd built, everything he'd valued, gone. Diane's sentencing was harsher. Same judge, even less mercy. "Diane Blackwood, you are the worst kind of criminal. You murdered a good man, tried to murder children, all for money you didn't earn, technology you didn't invent, success you didn't deserve. You will serve life in prison without possibility of parole. 4 additional consecutive life sentences for the attempted murders. You will die in prison, as you deserve. Diane's final words were chilling, unrepentant to the end. I regret nothing except getting caught. Michael Thompson was weak. Children are collateral damage. In business, you do what you must. I'd do it all again. Because that's what winners do. They win. At any cost. The guards took her away. Forever, to a cell where she'd spend the rest of her life surrounded by concrete and regret and the slow realization that she'd traded everything for nothing. 1 year later. Late spring. Detroit blooming again. The Michael Thompson Innovation Center stood in the heart of the city, state-of-the-art facility, glass and steel and hope, teaching engineering to kids who'd never thought they had a chance. Marcus stood at the podium. Sophie beside him, Sarah and Riley cutting the ribbon, 500 people watching, media covering it live. This moment of transformation, of broken things made whole. A year ago, I was an absent father, choosing profit over people, work over family. Then I met Riley Thompson, 12-year-old girl who taught me what courage looks like, what fighting for family means. Her father, Michael Thompson, was a hero, not because he invented revolutionary technology, but because he died protecting his integrity. This center ensures his legacy lives forever. The center's impact was already visible. 300 students enrolled, free engineering education, after-school programs, summer camps, all focused on kids who'd been told they weren't smart enough, weren't rich enough, weren't good enough. Talent doesn't care about zip codes. Neither did they. Riley, now 13, scholarship to elite private school, straight A's, still fixed cars at Frank's shop on weekends, still taught younger kids at the center, still carried her father's notebooks, still believed broken things could be fixed. Sophie, now 6, healthy, happy, confident, best friends with Riley, inseparable. 2 girls who'd saved each other's lives, who understood loss and courage and the power of refusing to give up. Sarah had transformed too. VP at Thomson Blackwood Technologies, leader, innovator, advocate for worker safety and inventor rights. Everything Mike had believed companies should be. She'd married Frank Martinez 6 months ago. Quiet ceremony, just family, just love, just 2 people who'd found each other in the wreckage of loss. Marcus had also remarried. To Sarah Parker, Dr. James Parker's sister. Slowly, carefully, building something real, something healthy. Twin boys now 2 years old. The house that had been cold and silent, now loud and messy and full of life. But tonight was about Mike, about honoring the man who'd changed everything, about making sure his name lived on. The mayor spoke. The governor sent a video message. Engineering students from Wayne State presented research funded by the Thompson Foundation. And Riley stood at the microphone, small, certain, absolutely her father's daughter. My dad used to say that fixing things isn't just about understanding how they work. It's about caring enough to try, about refusing to walk past something broken and pretend you don't see it. This center is how we fix things, how we make sure kids like me get the chance my dad never had, the chance to learn, to grow, to prove that talent matters more than money. Thank you for being here. Thank you for caring. Thank you for helping us fix what they broke. The applause lasted 5 minutes. Standing ovation. People crying. People inspired. People believing that justice was possible. That courage mattered. That one person could make a difference. 2 years after the trial, Marcus took Sophie to the cemetery. Regular routine now. Every Sunday, bringing flowers, spending time, remembering Catherine without the crushing guilt that had defined the first 2 years. Hi, Mommy. I brought my report card. All A's. Daddy says you'd be proud. Sophie placed flowers on the grave. Daisies. Always daisies. Then sat in the grass, content, comfortable with death in the way children can be when it's explained with love. Marcus knelt beside the headstone, put his hand on the cool marble. Hi, Kath. Kept my promise. Finally, Sophie's happy, safe, loved. She knows her father, and she knows her mother through the stories I tell. We're okay. More than okay. He looked at his daughter, at this miracle he'd almost lost, this second chance he had almost wasted. I met someone, Sarah Parker, James's sister. She's kind, patient, good with Sophie, good with the bosses. I think you'd like her. I think you'd be glad I'm moving forward. Not forgetting you, never that, but honoring you by living fully, by being present, by being the husband and father you always believed I could be. Sophie tugged his sleeve. Daddy, I think Mommy's happy. We're happy. I think so too, sweetheart. They walked back to the car, hand in hand, father and daughter, together in ways that mattered. Marcus's phone rang. Sarah Thompson. The whole family was gathering at the Innovation Center for the anniversary gala, celebrating 2 years since they'd started fighting, 1 year since they'd won. The ballroom was packed. Marcus and Sophie, Sarah Parker and the twins, Sarah Thompson and Frank, Riley, Dr. Parker, Patricia Morrison, Detective Rodriguez, Professor Mitchell, Dr. Walsh, everyone who'd fought, everyone who'd believed, everyone who'd refused to let injustice win. A giant photo of Michael Thompson hung on the wall, smiling, grease-stained hands, happy, alive in memory if not in body. A plaque beneath read, Michael Thompson, engineer, father, hero. His courage changed lives. His legacy changes the world. Riley stood to give a toast, glass raised, voice clear. To Dad, who taught me I can fix this means more than fixing engines. It means fixing injustice, broken systems, broken hearts. To everyone here, you're all proof that Dad's work mattered. Not just the quantum drive, but the courage to do the right thing, even when it costs everything. Marcus added his own words, and to Catherine, who taught me family is everything. I forgot for a while, but Riley and Mike reminded me. So here's to them, to courage, to family, to fixing what's broken. Together. Everyone raised glasses. To family. The evening continued. Music, dancing, stories. Sophie and Riley sneaking cake. The twins causing chaos. Adults laughing, healing, building something good from something terrible. Later, Marcus stood by the window, looking out at Detroit, this city that had given him everything, taken everything, given it back transformed. Sarah Parker joined him, slipped her hand into his. You did good. Mike would be proud. Riley did good. I just finally showed up. That's what matters. Showing up, being present, choosing people over profit. Marcus looked at the photo of Mike Thompson, at this man he'd never really known, this engineer who'd been dismissed, forgotten, erased, until his daughter refused to let him disappear. I spent so long thinking success meant money, power, board seats and stock options. Took a 12-year-old girl to teach me that success means something else entirely. What's that? Being someone your kids are proud of, being present when it matters, fighting for what's right even when it's hard. Sarah kissed his cheek, smiled, went to rescue the twins from whatever disaster they were creating. And Marcus stood there, watching his family, his expanded, complicated, beautiful family, built from loss and courage and the refusal to accept that broken things stay broken. 5 years after the trial, Riley turned 17, MIT scholarship, full ride, engineering program, following in her father's footsteps, but with advantages he'd never had. Resources, support, a mother who didn't have to work 2 jobs, a foundation that ensured talented kids got chances regardless of money. Sophie turned 11, already talking about engineering school, already taking apart engines with Riley, already believing she could fix anything, build anything, be anything. The Sunday family dinners had become tradition. Marcus's house, 20 people, 3 generations. Loud, chaotic, perfect. Marcus and Sarah Parker with their 3 kids, Sarah Thompson and Frank, Riley, Dr. Parker and his family, Patricia Morrison stopping by, Detective Rodriguez bringing her husband, this chosen family, this tribe built from shared trauma and shared triumph. They gathered around the table. Too much food, too much noise, too much love. And before they ate, Riley stood, raised her glass like she did every week. To Dad, who taught us broken things can be fixed. If you care enough, if you're brave enough, if you refuse to give up. To Mike, everyone echoed. And to everyone here, you're all proof that courage matters, that truth matters, that families aren't just blood. They're the people who show up, who fight for you, who refuse to let you face the darkness alone. Marcus looked around the table, at Sophie teaching Riley's younger cousins about engines, at Sarah Thompson laughing with Frank, at Dr. Parker telling terrible jokes, at his own children learning what family really meant. This was success, not money, not power. This moment, this love, this presence. Later that night, after everyone had gone home, Marcus found the letter in his study, sealed envelope with Riley's handwriting. He opened it carefully. Dear Marcus, 5 years ago, you took a chance on a 12-year-old girl and her mom. You risked everything to help us. You became family when we had none. I'm leaving for MIT next month, starting my own journey. But I wanted you to know, you didn't just help us get justice for Dad. You showed me what a father should be. Present, brave, willing to fight for what matters. Thank you for being there when we needed you. Thank you for choosing us over profit. Thank you for proving that good people still exist. I'll make Dad proud. I promise. Love, Riley. Marcus felt tears on his face, didn't wipe them away, just sat there, holding this letter from a girl who'd changed his life, who'd saved his daughter, who'd taught him what courage looked like. Sophie appeared in the doorway, 11 years old, growing up too fast. Daddy, are you crying? Happy tears, sweetheart. Riley wrote me a letter. She's the best. I'm going to miss her when she goes to college. Me too, but she'll come back. She always does. Sophie climbed into his lap, getting too big for this, but not yet, not quite yet. Daddy, when I grow up, I want to be like Riley, brave and smart and good at fixing things. You already are, sweetheart. You already are. They sat there, father and daughter, in the study where Marcus had once buried himself in work to avoid feeling. Now it was a place of connection, of presence, of choosing family over everything else. Tell me about Mommy, the real Mommy, Catherine. Marcus smiled, started telling stories about the woman who'd loved him, who'd asked him to be better, who'd died believing he could be. Stories that used to hurt, but now brought comfort. Proof that love didn't end with death, that promises could be kept even after the person who asked for them was gone. Outside, Detroit slept, the city that had witnessed so much pain, so much loss, so much courage. The Michael Thompson Innovation Center stood dark, waiting for tomorrow, for the next generation of kids who'd be told they couldn't, who'd prove they could, who'd learn that broken things could be fixed. Thompson Blackwood Technologies hummed with night shift workers, building better engines, cleaner technology, following Mike Thompson's vision, honoring his memory with every innovation. Every patent bore his name now, every success acknowledged his contribution. In federal prison, Diane Blackwood lay in her cell. Life sentence, no parole, no escape, no redemption. The empire she'd built on blood and lies had crumbled. The money gone, the power evaporated, the legacy destroyed. She traded everything for nothing, won every battle except the one that mattered. Victor Blackwood was eligible for parole in 10 more years. Maybe he'd get it. Maybe he wouldn't. Either way, he'd lost his family, his reputation, his empire, everything he'd valued more than human life. The universe had a way of balancing scales. Eventually, inevitably. But in the Whitmore house, balance had been restored differently, through courage instead of consequences, through love instead of loss, through the simple act of choosing people over profit, family over fear, truth over convenience. Marcus carried Sophie to bed, tucked her in, kissed her forehead. Love you, baby girl. Love you too, Daddy. Thanks for always being here. Always, I promise. He walked downstairs, found Sarah Parker in the kitchen, cleaning up from dinner. They worked together in comfortable silence. This partnership they'd built, this marriage based on presence and truth and shared values. You okay? She asked. Yeah, just thinking about how different everything is. 5 years ago, I was drowning. Now I can't imagine being anywhere else. That's what happens when you finally show up for your life. Marcus pulled her close, kissed her, grateful for this second chance, this opportunity to be better, to be present, to be the man Catherine had believed he could be and Sarah Parker loved anyway. Later, alone in his study, Marcus looked at the photos on his desk. Catherine holding baby Sophie, Mike Thompson with young Riley. Two families connected by loss, by courage, by the refusal to let injustice win. He opened his journal, wrote the date, wrote what he'd learned. Success isn't measured in dollars or power or board seats. It's measured in presence, in showing up for the people who need you, in fighting for what's right even when it costs you everything, in being someone your children are proud of. Mike Thompson understood that, died for it, and in dying, taught me how to finally live. He closed the journal, turned off the light, walked upstairs to where Sarah and the boys slept, to where Sophie dreamed of engineering school and fixing the world, to where family waited, present, real, whole. The house settled into quiet, into peace, into the kind of contentment that comes from knowing you did the right thing, even when it was hard, especially when it was hard. And somewhere in whatever place the dead go, maybe Mike Thompson and Catherine Whitmore looked down on the families they'd left behind, on the children who'd refused to let them be forgotten, on the people who'd fought to honor their memories. Maybe they saw that broken things could be fixed, that courage mattered more than comfort, that truth won eventually. That family was everything. Maybe they smiled, maybe they knew that their legacies lived on, not in technology or money or corporate success, but in the hearts of children who'd learned to be brave, to be present, to refuse to accept that the world couldn't be better, to look at broken things and say those three simple words that changed everything. I can fix this, and mean it, and do it, and teach the next generation to do the same. That was the real legacy, the only one that mattered, the one that lived forever. In Sophie's room, a photo sat on the nightstand, her and Riley, arms around each other, smiling. Two girls who'd saved each other's lives, who'd become sisters not through blood, but through fire, through trauma, through shared determination to honor their fathers by being brave. In Riley's room across town, the same photo, same smile, same bond, same unbreakable connection. Two families, one truth, justice served, legacies honored, futures bright. And in the end, isn't that what fixing things really means? Not making everything perfect, but making it better, making it whole, making it matter. That's what Mike Thompson taught his daughter, what Catherine taught her husband, what Riley taught Sophie, what Marcus finally learned. Broken things can be fixed if you're brave enough to try, if you care enough to fight, if you refuse to accept that the world has to stay broken. The lights went out across Detroit. The city slept. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new broken things needing fixing, new fights worth fighting. But tonight, two families rested, safe, together, whole, and that was enough. That was everything. That was the promise kept, the legacy honored, the future secured. That was fixing what's broken. One day, one choice, one courageous moment at a time. The end.